Welcome. Today we are diving into something that's absolutely critical for any business that's trying to scale, your accounting setup. We're going to break down the key in-house roles you need to know about, and then we'll get into some really smart outsourcing strategies that can seriously fuel your growth.
So let me just start by asking you this. Is your accounting a bottleneck right now? As your business gets bigger, are you finding that all the financial tasks are starting to slow things down? If you're kind of nodding your head right now, you are not alone. And figuring out your options is the very first step to fixing it.
Okay, so to clear that bottleneck, we've got to understand the key players on the team. Let's kick things off with two roles that get mixed up all the time but are completely different: the accounting manager and the controller. Getting this right is so important.
So think of your accounting manager as the captain of the ship, day in and day out. They are right there in the weeds, handling transactions, making sure payroll goes out smoothly, and keeping the books totally pristine and up to the minute. They're that hands-on leader for the accounting team. The controller, on the other hand, they're more like the navigator, looking at the maps from a 30,000-foot view. Their focus is all on the big picture. They're overseeing the big financial reports, making sure the company is following all the rules and regulations, and putting together those official financial statements that tell the real story of your business.
So, to put it really simply, the manager is all about daily operations, what's happening right now. The controller, they're focused on the big picture strategy, what's happening next month, next year. And trust me, as your business grows, trying to get one person to do both of those jobs, well, it becomes a huge challenge.
Okay, so we've got our in-house team defined, but how do we get more firepower without just hiring more and more people? Well, that's where outsourcing comes into play. And there's a really interesting model that's getting a ton of buzz lately called nearshoring.
Nearshoring is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's outsourcing, but, near you. So instead of sending work halfway across the globe, U.S. companies are partnering with firms in countries that are close by, a lot of the time in Latin America. And this creates some pretty awesome advantages over that traditional offshore model. So why is everybody talking about nearshoring? Well, first off, time zone compatibility. This is an absolute game changer. No more 3 a.m. conference calls or waiting half a day for an email back. Your outsourced team is working when you're working. Second, you often find cultural similarities, which just makes everything run smoother. And third, you still get to see some pretty significant cost savings. It's kind of the best of both worlds.
All right, so we see the perks of nearshoring, but how does it really stack up against the more traditional offshore option? Let's zoom in a bit and look at the key differences.
This table makes the choice pretty clear, right? With nearshoring, communication is way easier and your compliance risk is probably lower. Offshore might save you a little more on the bottom line, but you're almost guaranteed to have more communication headaches and a bigger compliance burden. It's that classic trade-off, cost versus convenience and risk.
And hey, speaking of compliance, this is a big one. If you're even thinking about going the offshore route, there is a really critical issue you just can't afford to ignore. The IRS has very specific rules about disclosure when you hire offshore CPAs for certain jobs. And we're not just talking about extra paperwork here. As this quote says loud and clear, if you fail to report this correctly, you could be looking at some serious tax problems. I'm talking penalties, audits, the whole mess. It just goes to show how vital it is to pick a partner who knows their stuff no matter where they are.
So we've covered outsourcing for your own business, but what if you're a service provider yourself? Maybe a CPA firm, and you want to expand what you can offer your clients. Well, there's a really clever strategy for that, and it's called white labeling.
The process itself is actually really straightforward. Your firm sends some accounting tasks to a specialized partner. That partner does all the number crunching behind the scenes. Then your firm takes that finished work and presents it to your clients, all under your own brand. As far as your client knows, you did everything yourself. Pretty slick.
And the benefits? They're huge. You get instant access to a team of experts without having to hire them. This frees up your own team to focus on the really high-value stuff, like advising your clients. And most importantly, your client gets a seamless experience from the brand they already know and trust.
All right, that was a lot of info, I know. So let's switch gears and tackle some of the most common questions that always seem to come up when people start exploring these kinds of strategies.
This is probably the number one question I get. It makes sense, right? Can't we just have our amazing accounting manager also take on the controller's job and save some money?
And the honest answer is, it really depends on your size. When you're super small, yeah, one person might wear both hats. But as your business starts to grow, that strategic oversight, that risk management, that high-level reporting that a controller does, that becomes a full-time, highly specialized job.
trying to mash them together will eventually hold your business back.
Okay, next question. Thinking back to that IRS warning, people get worried. How risky is it really to hire offshore CPAs? Is it even worth the headache?
So look, the risks are real, but they're definitely manageable. The two biggest things you have to worry about are, number one, compliance with all the rules, and number two, data security. The key to sleeping at night is doing your homework. Find a highly reputable firm and get an ironclad contract that spells out everyone's responsibilities.
And finally, let's talk about that white labeling strategy again. Is that just a tool for big CPA firms, or can other kinds of businesses use it too?
Oh, absolutely. It's an amazing model for all sorts of businesses. Think about it. A marketing agency or maybe a law firm could use a white label service to offer bookkeeping to their clients. It creates a brand new way for them to make money without the massive headache of building a whole accounting department from the ground up. So, as we wrap things up here, the one thing I really want you to take away is to think ahead. Understanding all these roles and strategies lets you build the perfect mix of in-house talent and outside help, not just for where you are today, but for where you want to go. So the real question you should be asking yourself is this: is your finance team built for the business you have or the business you're trying to build?